Listen up, you donkey. If you've been hankering for a juicy but crusty grilled steak, we've got great news for you. You don't need to be some fancy-pants chef to make it happen. We're about to turn you into a steak-searing maestro. Forget those rubbery, bland excuses for steaks. Here's a concise guide to achieving the perfect crust on your steak, one that'll make you want to slap your mama. Just kidding, don't do that. Get ready to learn, you muppets. First things first, you need the right bloody cut of meat, or you're starting off on the wrong foot. We're talking at least 1¼ inches thick. None of that thin, flimsy nonsense. Think ribeye, New York strip, something with a good amount of marbling. You want that fat to render down and give you a juicy, flavorful steak. Don't even think about bringing home some cheap, nasty cut. This is steak night, not amateur hour. Go for quality, you hear me? Now listen carefully, you wouldn't believe how many people mess this up. Pat that steak dry with paper towels like your life depends on it. We're talking bone dry, not a hint of moisture. Why? Because moisture is the enemy of a good crust. A wet steak steams instead of sears, and you end up with a sad grey piece of meat. We're going for a glorious caramelized crust, the kind that makes you weep with joy, not frustration. Salt and pepper, that's all you need, but you need enough to make your granny blush. Don't be shy with it. Season those steaks liberally on both sides, and I mean liberally. The salt draws out moisture, which we've already taken care of, and helps create that beautiful crust. And for God's sake, use fresh ground black pepper. None of that pre-ground dust. We're going for flavor explosions here, not a funeral dirge. Chapter 4. Pan like a pro. Now for the heat. Crank that burner up to high and get your pan screaming hot. We want it practically smoking. And don't even think about using some flimsy non-stick pan. You need a cast iron skillet. The heavier, the better. That cast iron retains heat like a beast and gives you an even sear. This is where the magic happens, people. The art of the sear. All right, you ready for this? Add a splash of high smoke point oil to the pan. Canola or grapeseed will do. Now gently lay that seasoned steak in the pan and don't you dare touch it. Resist the urge to poke, prod, or flip it prematurely. We're looking for a deep, dark crust, almost black in places. This should take about 2 to 3 minutes per side, depending on the thickness of your steak. You want that sizzle. Chapter 6. Butter makes it better. Here's where we take it up a notch. In the last couple of minutes of cooking, toss in a knob of butter, some crushed garlic cloves, and a few sprigs of fresh herb. Thyme or rosemary work a treat. Now tilt the pan and use a spoon to baste that melted butter over the steak. This does 2 things. It adds another layer of flavor and it helps to create an even more incredible crust. Chapter 7. Rest, you glorious beast. Your steak is nearly there, but don't you dare cut into it yet. Remove it from the pan and let it rest on a cutting board for at least 5 minutes. I know it's tempting, but trust me on this. Resting allows the juices to redistribute throughout the meat, so you get a more tender, flavorful bite. Patience, you impatient fool. Chapter 8. Slice and devour. All right, you've earned this. Slice that steak against the grain. This shortens the muscle fibers and makes it even more tender. Now, take a bite and prepare for a taste sensation. You've just cooked a restaurant-quality steak, and don't you forget it. Now go forth and impress your friends and family. Just don't tell them I taught you everything you know. Outro, congratulations, you didn't screw it up. Well, you lot, you actually managed to pull it off. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. But seriously, a perfectly cooked steak is a thing of beauty, and you should be proud of yourself for conquering this culinary challenge. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep honing your skills and experimenting with different cuts, seasonings and cooking times. And for heaven's sake, don't overcook the damn thing. Now go forth and spread the gospel of the perfectly cooked steak. You're now part of an elite group, the Steak Masters.